And then she walks over to them, thereby ending the conversation. Now, mind you, this was the first piece of game I had spit that day out of the car, right? We warm it up here. But I want to remind you all that you need to treat life like a professional boxing match. You'll notice that the boxers, when they go into the ring, most of them are already sweating because when the boxing match starts, if you're not fully warmed up, if you're not at peak, you can get knocked out within 1 or 2 seconds because you have to be at peak to be able to dodge, slip, duck, counter punch, make aggressions as soon as the bell starts. You can't go in there and start warming up during the boxing match. It's not going to go well. I say that to say I wasn't at 100%. I wasn't firing at 100%. I say I was firing probably at about 85%. So anyway, she says, oh, they're my friends. And I turn and look, and then she walks over there, and there's probably about 8 Romanians, dudes and females. And as I turn to look, I see one particular Romanian young lady who was very good looking. And that's the one that she walked over to and started talking. And that one was looking back at me, which is understandable in as much as I was just talking to her friend. But there's a little bit more there. And when you hone your ability to look into someone's eyes and assess them and almost read their mind, it will help you a great deal. Don't be afraid of eye contact. It can get you very far. So anyways, from there, we start heading into the Louvre. And I'm telling Kane, I'm like, bruh, we going in today, bro. I'm feeling like I'm just shooting everything that moves. Like nothing is getting by. I'm catching bodies today, Brody. And so we head in. We hop in line for the Louvre. We obviously, as I said, I had purchased our tickets in advance, so I had the digital tickets on the phone. So we hop in the line for that. And as we hop in the line, the French woman that is managing the line, she says, oh, this is the line for the tickets. You purchase tickets in advance? So, yeah, that's right. And so I'd show her on the phone. She said, okay, very good. You look so good. You look so good, so fashionable. And then Kane says, yeah, he's a fashion designer, which I appreciate. Shout out to Kane. You heard me with the oops. You dig? That's love. You always want to see that. That's good company, good friends to be around. And then she says, oh, you look so good. So much style from you, head to toe. Next month we have Fashion Week. You should come to Fashion Week. It's perfect for you. I was like, you know what? That's actually a great idea. Because who doesn't like models? I do. So anyways, that's letting us know we're in the right zone. One thing that's important to mention contextually is the day before I'd met up with Kane briefly after I went to the Eiffel Tower. And I was wearing a full suit, not a business suit, but, a Marquett suit. So a proper, leisure time suit. And I was noticing that it wasn't really hitting with the French European audience. And as much as these people don't really get dressed for anything, they're extremely dressed down. That's including the females. And so as a result, I said, okay, let's make some adjustments. Let's get with the environment and thrive. And so the day before I was wearing a suit, the velvet pimpin'. And then so the next day I hit him with the velour, but dressed down, wearing sneakers, ball cap, threw a chain on them. So, real dressed casual, but casual chic. So anyways, casual chic. And I'm noticing that there's definitely a much different reception that I'm getting just based on a mere choice of outfit, which was intentional and strategic. In fact, when I was talking with Kane before we had left out, he was like, are you going with the suit again? I was like, nah, Brody, I'm going with the sneaks, the ball cap, and all of that. So anyways, we get into the Louvre, which was actually quite a process, man. We're just navigating through a labyrinth. We're finally made it in. And one thing I want to let you guys know is success accumulates. So you accumulate success through small advantages consistently carved out. So as a result, when I was seeing the many lines that one can get into, I'm always strategically looking like, oh, are there some good looking women in that line? Okay, let's join in behind them. It's a very easy opportunity to strike up conversation. The most beautiful way to engage the woman is when it feels like serendipity and you just happen to be in the same place at the same time and you just happen to strike up a good conversation. And as a result, you might as well exchange contact information. After all, it was such a natural meeting. So, anyways, we get into the Louvre and we're maneuvering through strategically through the collections, which are impressive as expected. And I see two women approaching us. So we're walking this way. The women are walking this way. And one of the paradoxes of life and women and gender relations is that often, being that women are so crafty and slick, when they are looking at you, you cannot tell, you can't notice it because they're that slick. They're making sure you don't notice. But what you will notice is you'll notice when they're looking at your buddy, right? You'll bust them looking at your friend, but you often won't see when they're looking at you, which is why if you have a good friend there, they'll let you know, put you on game. And if you're a real game spitter, you'll take advantage of that opportunity. And that's what I love to see. That's one of the things I respect greatly about the Saints. We've really organized an ambitious group of men who get the job done, no hesitation. So anyways, we're walking down a major hall in the Louvre through the collections, and I see two women approaching us, or rather they're oncoming traffic, and there's two of them. One is busted, not terribly busted, but I wouldn't hit, which that's busted to me. You ain't even good enough to take the pipe. Damn, you busted. Anyways, and then the friend was gorgeous. And I'm looking at the friend like, okay. But she's looking at Kane, right? So I'm like, bro. And so we passed by her. Bro, you see Shorty right there? She was eyeballing, man. She was recklessly eyeballing you, man. I saw it. I'm an eyewitness. And he was like, word? I was like, word. I was like, I got time, too. I got time. Like, I'll wait here. So boom, he went over straight to her, walked up on her, start kicking it. And I'm sitting back. It's a beautiful thing. I can see him engaging both of the chicks. It's lovely. I can see from a distance that is good game. And so he's engaging them. And, I'm kicking back. I even, did a story on IG because it was funny because I was like, bro, I ain't even tried to wingman that. I was just like, bro, like go in on that solo mission, man. You're a special ops killer, man. You don't need a team. Because the other one was just too fugly, man. I was like, look, if I get in there dealing with that fugly one, I'm going to mess everything up because that's not going to go well. I can't even fake it. I can't fake it. She too fugly. So anyways, he's doing this thing. I'm hanging back. Quite some time was going by. I was like, yo, let me slide in here, man, see if we can accelerate the game. Because one thing you must remember is empathy will carry you far in life, not only for the purpose of being kind to others, but rather such that you understand others and you can predict them. You understand what their goals are. And so you can influence them and respond appropriately and interpret them accurately. So that is to say, understanding that if you're in the Louvre, you're primarily there to look at the collection, to tour. So you don't want to take someone away from that for too long. And more importantly, far more importantly, no matter how interested the female is in you, she's already paid to enter this museum. So she's not about to like leave immediately, nor is she about to get beat down in this very crowded museum. There's nowhere to take her down. So you'd be wise to simply exchange contact information and carry on, which is to say that the game should be fairly quick, rapid. And really, it should always be rapid, but in this kind of a situation, even more so. So anyways, I come over, engagement conversation, nice, friendly girls. And right as I was walking up, I heard one say, yeah, Romanian. And I was like, word again, again. So, we start chopping it up a little bit about that, which is comical. And it's always nice to have those kinds of reference points, especially when it's unexpected. That really gives you an advantage in the game. You see, when you are not what they expect or you are not what is common, that makes you special. Being special is a good thing. So anyways, I engaged a conversation with him. He then exchanges contact information with one of the young ladies, which was great. And then I pushed forward the exit. So, we proceed on to the next group. And she was a good looking girl. I was very impressed. And also we had run into them later on and they were cordial, which is a good sign, speaks well of their character. And I think I pushed it along at quite a good time because the fugly one, Tico, by the way, I saw your message and I will address it. You're right. I'm pissed. Tico, let me assure you that being angry is not going to help your thinking, your reaction, your behavior. So if you would just pause and not do or say anything, I think you'd be better off right now. So just remember, just pause, don't do anything, don't say anything. Anger will not help the situation. I promise you. I will address this. I'm actually going to anonymously address this. So I'm going to anonymously talk about it because it's quite a bit. And I think it's very instructive for many people because you're not unique in this. Many of us will go through this. Anyways, so we're maneuvering through the Louvre. There's gorgeous women everywhere, and there's two young ladies. It seemed like they're kind of trying to, be in proximity to us. And this is often what happens with females, is that they'll make sure that they're near you. They really are basically it's in like an antelope trying, or, so wildebeest trying to put itself in the lion's mouth. Right. So they're two young ladies. And so I walk up on one of them. I say, "Oh, hey, where are you guys from?" And they're like, "Oh, we're Greek." We engage the conversation. Well, it turns out that one of them actually is Greek. The other one is not Greek. She's from Atlanta, but said she was Greek. So that dishonesty just straight away really turned me off, and I think was quite instructive on what her personality is. And as I was observing the two, and often this is the case, you can see one of them, especially the one that's generally less attractive, not being pursued, or the one that decides she's not attracted to one of the persons spinning game. She's the one that wants to, end the conversation, but because she's a female, she's going to be straightforward about it. She's going to be passive aggressive. She's going to like display negative attitude, negative countenance, and be a destructive force for the other one. So anyways, I could see that nothing was really converting. So I ended the conversation, which I had started. And I do this a lot. I get contact information a lot. I open up situations a lot. I also close situations a lot without converting contact information or attempting to, because I can see in advance it's not going to convert. So go ahead and wrap that one up, and we continue moving. Now we're walking, and I'm all about the eye contact, and also like this finger right here, this finger, and I've said this before, pause, this finger has spit more game and converted more females than every dating coach online. This one finger right here is a killer. So anyways, we're walking, and I see a young lady with nice golden brown hair. It was a brown, natural brown with a golden aesthetic to it. And light eyes and a significant rack, quite pale, about 5'6", slim with a significant rack. And we're walking by, and she was looking at me like she had seen God, like she had lived her life as a non-believer, and she had seen God for the first time. And so you just saw her eyes open up. This is something that's chiefly feminine. Men generally don't open up their eyes very wide to where you can see the white above the eye. This is a female facial expression, or the homosexual males engage this expression sometimes as well. It's an exceptional level of excitement and emotion. Males, we generally don't experience this kind of emotion. You hear me? So anyways, I see her eyes open up as she had seen God. And we walk, and when we're walking by and I saw this facial expression, I said, "Hey, how are you?" She says, I'm well. And then I was like, okay, English was pretty good. So we pass each other, and I turn back. And then she kind of like does the half face turn back. Women, they don't ever want to get busted looking at you. So then I walk over to her and engage the conversation. And when you're on holiday, it seems like it's easier to spit game. It seems like there's always something to say because you're one that's outside of your land, and you perceive that people will take mercy on you or take favor upon you because you're not in your own land, you're in their land, and they know more than you, and they can show you around and things like this. But it's actually not true. It's just a psychological disposition that you have. Anyway, so I start engaging her, and it's going swimmingly. Gorgeous young lady. And at one point, she had asked me what I do. Then I asked her what she does. She says, "Oh, well, I'm still in school." I said, "Oh, well, I thought you'd be finished with that. When do you finish?" She says, "Well, I'm just getting started because I'm 18. And I was like, "Oh, okay, for sure." So this was some real fresh water. And just as I'm like, you know what, I might as well convert this contact info because she definitely wants a boss. And so I pull out my phone and then I see her face change. And then I see her looking in one direction. Then I turn and she says, my father. And I was like, ah, okay. And I'm looking at her father, and her father looked so angry. You know, it's hard to describe this level of anger. You think something really bad had happened. And he's just looking at her, and I could tell that the game was over. So she starts walking toward him. It's a wrap. One of the lessons there is convert quicker, right? Just as I'd said earlier, convert quicker. And one thing we all should know, we ask for the contact info usually when we're comfortable, but you have to know and set yourself psychologically to understand that the time at which you're comfortable is generally just a couple minutes too late. Not too late, but it's a couple minutes later than is optimal. And this is actually very common with human beings. We tend to require too much data. So, for example, as I live in Las Vegas, this is a city of money, cash money. It's a city of odds and probability and casinos. And, you know, the comical thing about, like, let's take a game, for example, like craps game, which is you throw the dice, and there's a such thing, they say it's a hot roll. If people are rolling the dice for a long time, that means they're going to make more money. Now, here's the funny thing about human psychology, because human beings are scary, fearful animals. What happens is the dice start rolling for a long time, and then people think, oh, wow, like it's doing really well. I need to increase my bets so I can make some money. So then they increase their bets. As soon as they increase their bets, boom, 7 comes, and they all lose their money. And they're like, damn, as soon as I increased my bets, it went out. That's a problem. You didn't become comfortable until the dice started rolling for many rolls. So you're like, wow, like I could have been making money. I'm going to increase my bet. Well, the problem is your comfort level came late. So by the time you reacted, you took action, it was tardy. So human beings, we tend to need too much data. So your goal is to be first or to be early. So like the most strategic thing, which is harder because it requires more bravery, and it requires you not to use human psychology, but to use God consciousness and mathematics and truth. You see, it would be wiser to start your bets high and then lower them, which means that you need to be aggressive, because as a human being, you can't perceive the good roll until it's already fully in swing. But by then, it's on its way down. Same thing with the stock market, right? Say a new company comes out, Tesla, at the beginning, you're like, oh, okay, I heard of that. And then the stock price is shooting up. Then you're like, oh man, everyone's getting rich. I got to buy some. So then you buy it. Well, the price is already up. Now it's on its way down. That's the issue. So anyways, I was tardy on that one, asking for contact info, and her father had shown up and she was highly interested, very attractive young lady. And so that was a missed opportunity, no doubt. We carry on. Why? Because that's what we do as men. We carry on. And more importantly, we carry on as though we've never experienced defeat or suffering. You carry on bravely. That's the measure of a true man, and also the measure of someone who has control of their psychology, not allowing missteps or miscalculations to dull you or to sadden you or discourage you. So we carry on just as though like it was a fresh day. And spit some more game. I was walking to the escalator. Actually, we were standing by the escalator, and Kane was plotting on a set of Asian chicks, like, you know, a couple clicks to the left, and I'm looking the other way, and different random Asian chick is walking to get on the escalator. She looks me up and down. She's like, "You look great." I was like, "You look great too." So then I go ahead and hop on the escalator, start kicking game at her. It turns out she's Chinese, and I said, wow, like I would have never guessed that you're Chinese. Your English is so clean. She says, well, what do you mean? I said, I mean that the Chinese, similar to the French, when they speak English, they still have a strong accent. You know, like the French, like they speak English. It still sounds like French. And the Chinese also have a very strong accent because it's a tonal language, right? The tongue movements and the mouth formulations are radically different. She was like, no, Chinese speak great English. I was like, no, I've been to China a ton of times, actually. I have a 10-year visa, and I've used it. And I've been to many cities in China. I was like, no, they don't speak good English. That's a lie. Needless to say, that small disagreement just broke her heart. And so that was the end of that. But it was a good thing, because it's important to find that out sooner than later. because there would have been nothing worse than to get her contact information only later to find out that she's an unreasonable person or she's a feminist. So it's much better to engage those situations early on. So, anyways, that was the end of that. Then we continue moseying on. Kane had kicked some game to some chicks, like recording a TikTok dance video. And then we start strolling back to my hotel, at which point my banker calls me. And, generally I try not to do business when I'm at leisure. But my banker had called, and there was a fairly pressing matter, and I had wanted to, restructure some accounts and add some accounts. And so he called me on the telephone, and he said, "Hey, Marquett, we got your request, and I can set this up for you right now. I just need to, confirm a couple things and, get a little bit of information." I was like, "Well, I am in Paris right now, but I can knock this out. Let's move quickly." So he's like, "All right, fantastic." He's like, "I will need you to execute a couple of documents, but you can do it via phone." I was like, "Okay." So I have a couple of different banks. And when he said via phone, I thought he meant like I can use my voice verification to sign the documents, because I do have another bank where they voice verify me. So I thought that this bank had, maybe some better technology where I could voice verify. Anyways, so we start going through the matters. Kane is kind enough to give the directions as we're walking back to the hotel. This turns out to, end up being like a 25-minute call. And I figured out why. Halfway through the call, I forget precisely what the indication was, but my banker says, "Oh, you're in Paris, France." I was like, "Yeah, that's right." He's like, "Oh, I thought you were in the Paris," which is a resort and casino in Las Vegas, right? It's called Paris or the Paris, which I really would never go in there. But he was like, "Oh, I thought you were in Vegas in the Paris." I was like, "Nah, Brody, I'm in Paris, France, Paris, like the real one." He was like, "Oh, okay. I'm so sorry." I was like, "Yeah, I'm paying like $3 a minute to talk to you. Talk faster." So we have a chuckle. Then we carry on, and he says, "Okay, well, let's get these documents executed." So I just sent over these 2 documents. Go ahead, have a look at them, verify that things are appropriate, and we'll put a transfer in there to get the account started, and just verify that. He's like, "I can get all this done for you." So then I realized at that point, I was like, "Oh, I actually have to like look through physical documents." I was like, "Okay, that's fine." I was like, "But how am I executing them?" He says, "Oh, you actually have to click through and then like e-sign." I was like, "Oh, see, I thought you were doing the voice verification." He was like, "No." He was like, "Is that possible?" I was like, "Yes, it is." I was like, "Such and such bank does that." He was like, "Okay, well, nah, you got to read it on your phone, double tap, and then sign with your finger." I was like, "All right, let me sit down." So then I sit down, and I put him on speaker, and I'm looking at the documents, reading through the document. We're having conversation, kind of going back and forth about how he's structuring this account. And as that's happening, as I mentioned earlier, I tend to be very cognizant. And I observed 2 young ladies walking across the street or across the sidewalk. And I'm sitting on a bench facing the sidewalk, and both very good looking, one taller, one shorter. And the shorter one kind of like dances her way in between, like toward where I am and like kind of around me. And then I forget who said something first. I think it was me. I like popped on the mute button, say, "Hey, how are you?" She says something back in French. And then she keeps, like kind of like twirling and dancing through and like looks back at me. And then as I said, this one finger has converted more chicks than any of these pickup artists. I look at her and I give her one of these. She comes right back over like a zombie. And then I pop it on mute. I tell my bank, I was like, "Hey, give me a second. Let me take a look at this clause." And I pop it on mute. And then, I tell her like, "Hey, I'm taking a business call right now." And she said, "I see." I was like, "Yeah, but we should talk and we should hang out." She's like, "Okay." It's like, WhatsApp or Instagram? She's like, "Instagram." So I pull up Instagram. She types in her Instagram. I go ahead and screenshot it, which I recommend to you guys. I've had many instances where technology fails. So I screenshot it and I shoot her a message. And, she says, "Nice to meet you," gives a hug, and then dances away. Then I pop them off of mute, execute the documents, and carry on. So then we're finished the phone call. Kane and I are heading back. and having good conversation per usual. And I go ahead and double tap some of her photos so we can draw more attention to this message. Then before we get to our destination, she pops me a message back, and so now we're transitioning from game date to the player story. You dig? So Kane had to take um, two meetings, and this is what I love about being with a guy like Kane. Like, he's also a business guy like myself, and so we don't need to rush. We don't feel the need to like see everything in the city and like tour at a breakneck speed. You can do it calmly and get your business done. So anyways, he has two meetings, so he hops into the business center at my hotel, and I go upstairs, and I'm still texting the broad. We had planned to do dinner after he finished his meeting, so I was going to go upstairs, take some meetings. He's going to take his meetings in the business center. Then when we finish, we just go have some dinner. Anyways, I'm texting the broad back and forth, seeing what moves she's trying to make. And she tells me that she's out asking what I'm up to. And it turns out she's with like 8 of her friends. So it's her and 8 other Frenchmen and women. And I was like, did you want me to come? And she was like, oh, there's 8 of us. It's probably maybe better if we catch up afterward, which is perfect for me because I didn't want to go. And these are French people being super French. They're hella European over there. Guess what they're doing? They're drinking wine and eating cheese. You hear me? Like, come on, man. Like, knock it off. This is too European. So they're drinking wine and eating cheese. She's sending me like videos of what they're doing. So I was like, yeah, for sure. Let's catch up after, which is a good sign because she'll already be sauced up. I don't have to go on a date. I don't have to spend any money. I don't have to spend any time. So this is brilliant. And at one point, I think she had said something like, she had like typed to me like, you're so sexy, or like, you're so handsome, whatever the case is. I forget what the language was. Rarely do I send the compliment right back. I almost never reflect a compliment or an affection just because I think it's insincere. If a woman wants to say, hey, you're handsome, I'm not going to turn around and say you're beautiful unless I was actually thinking that. And in most cases, I'm not. So I'll just say thank you, or, in this case, double tap the message. So anyways, we're texting back and forth. And then I messaged Kane, an hour and a half later after I'd finished my work. And I was like, hey, are you going for food? He was like, absolutely. I was like, what time? He was like, now o'clock. I was like, all right, I'll come down. Let's go. So come down. We go and find a nice little cafe in the French style where the seats are facing the street. We get street front real estate. We sit down. Before we even made an order, he hops up and starts hollering at this Indonesian chick. She was a cutie pie. And, we get our order in. It's a lot of beautiful, good-looking foot traffic. The gentleman orders some escargot, offers me some, very kind. I decline. Your boy's not going to be out here eating snails. There's just some things that a pea can't do. And, I'm texting the chick, getting things arranged. You feel me? Not like BS text. I'm getting things set up, and I say something that was very aggressive. And I always encourage you guys, when appropriate, to hit them with that Hail Mary, because it really lets you know where things stand. It's going to save you a lot of time. So I hit her with something aggressive. I turned to Kane. I said, bruh, if she ignores this, I'm out the game for sure. If she responds to this, I'm in the game for sure. And I'll see you tomorrow. He chuckles. We carry on with the meal, which was actually quite tasty. I was very impressed. And checked back on the message maybe 20 minutes later, and she had responded and then actually called me on the telephone, which I'd missed because I always keep my notifications off. So anyways, once I hit her back, she was saying, yeah, I'll come meet you up. The English is not her first language. So she said, I'll come meet you up. And then so I told her, like, I'm at this hotel. She said, okay, I'll come over there. I'll meet you in front. And so, we had just happened to close out the check. So we stroll over. We just happened to arrive there maybe 30 seconds before she did. Very timely young lady, which I appreciate. She shows up looking good and cute, very stylish. And Kane's leaving. She said, oh, well, why is he leaving? Did you tell him to leave because I'm coming? I was like, nah, he's actually at a different hotel, which is a fact. So anyways, yeah, took her straight up to the suite, you dig? And things went swimmingly. Things went swimmingly. Yeah. And the beautiful thing, afterwards, she is receiving a number of phone calls, which she puts on speaker, mostly talking in French. And then I suppose her female friend knew that she was with me, an American. And I guess they had met some Americans who are from Los Angeles. And I was like, they're probably not from LA. They're saying they're from LA. And she was like, oh, you have to come with us. Come hang out. And I was like, nah, it was already like 12:30 a.m. at that point. I was like, no, I'm jet lagged. I'm tired. I'd like to go to bed. And she persuaded, and I stuck to what I said. And she gave me a nice hug and carried on. I hopped in bed and went to bed shortly after that, which was great. It was a perfect ball game in as much as did some great touring, enjoyed socializing with my good friend and with the ladies that we encountered, was able to convert off of this finger, just this one finger, and did not expend a single penny, did not expend any amount of time. It was the very most efficient experience that one could have sought. I've had the experience before. It's actually quite funny. Often these European girls, they have a sense of humor. And, after round one, she turns to me and says, welcome to France. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. I was waiting for somebody to welcome your boy appropriately. So it was a good ball game. Anyways, I wanted to share that with you guys. I'll give you, wanted to share that with you guys. And so I think you get the difference between the game day. The game day might not necessarily convert. And you should definitely be taking out some time for the game day. Really, every day should be a game day. But when you have the golden opportunity to go to a highly populated place that's rich in targets like the Louvre or, the Eiffel Tower, then that's a game day right there. But the key is, like, for example, the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre are radically different. Like, the Louvre is really a game day because in this museum, you have people that are essentially at leisure, walking slowly in a contained environment. It's a paid environment, so there's no one there soliciting. So the angle at which you can approach a female is radically different. It's advantageous for you. It's a better environment. So that was the game day. Then the player story basically was off of the drip and the swag and the aggressiveness and the confidence and the quick conversion and knowing. You got to know when you got it. You heard me? There was a couple points yesterday when I knew, I was like, I got this. This is mine. Like the 18-year-old chick, I was like, this is mine. Like, she is fully signed up. And then with the other chick who walked up on me while I was on the phone, put herself in the lion's grasp, and I gave her this, it was a wrap. I already knew. So I didn't hesitate. I went for that kill. St. Julio writes, Marquett, is it an issue if my girl gets upset when I tell her it's time for me to leave after us hanging out for 2 to 3? Is it an issue? Yeah, it is a bit of an issue. You're going to have a conversation with her about that because that can be annoying. My Romanian girl is the same way. You want to get off of the phone. She just will not stop talking at all. Shout out to Aiden. Came in by Venmo. As you guys can see, I have been blocked from Cash App. Had a number between us. I've had a number of my financial accounts frozen. I am at battle with the powers that be and have been for a little while. He writes, excellent player story, Peace of the Saints. I appreciate that. So it seems like the Venmo's working. But anyways, he writes, should I let her know I don't appreciate her for always begging and getting upset when I decide I want to leave? You can tell her that, in the most polite way possible, but very seriously and looking deep into her eyes, and probably have some hands on her while you're telling, like, on her shoulders to let her know, like, hey, I'm serious about this. Not raising your voice, but indicating your seriousness. Hey, when I need to leave, I need to leave. And though I enjoy you and appreciate you and I'll miss you when I leave, I would like to leave in peace. And when I say goodbye, that does mean goodbye. It doesn't mean anything other than goodbye. And we will not extend a goodbye and make it a long affair. Now, sometimes you'll find that they will not listen and comply. And that's a representation of who they are as a female. My Romanian chick, I hate to get on the call with her because I know when it's time to get off the call, she's going to try to extend it infinitely in the most annoying of ways. And, in some of their minds, they think this is cute. They think this is a show of affection, and you just have to clarify what it really is. And another thing that I often clarify for them is if I say, hey, I need to take a meeting, when they're like, oh, can you do it later? Or, oh, how long is it going to be? I'm like, none of that matters. And in fact, you don't matter when you're thinking like that. So if I have to take a meeting, you should be asking, oh, can I prepare you some water? Where do you want to take it? Is the lighting good? Is it going to be silent here? Do I need to grab your headphones? Those are the only questions you should be asking. Don't ever play with my money or get in the way of my money. I don't appreciate it. And that will get you canned. I don't give a fuck who you are or how good I feel about you. That will get you shit bricked and canned. Okay. You just got to let them know what it is. And that's one thing I let them know off rip. Like, no, you're never going to play with my money. Yeah, play with your fucking self. You ain't going to play with my money. And those are the things you got to let them know. You got to draw that line in the sand. So the important thing is that you let her know and also be aware that this might not change her behavior. I have one young lady that I had to give up on because I told her, like, hey, do not interrupt my sleep for sex. She said, yes, sir. And then kept doing it. Like, what? So sometimes you're dealing with nature, like animal nature, and that's not going to change. Or you're dealing with personality or personality defects. And so you have to know that these behaviors will be consistent, even though they're disadvantageous. And then you need to act accordingly, realizing, can I deal with this in the long run, or do I not want to deal with this in the long run? The young lady who would wake me up for sex, it seems like a small thing, except that sleep is critical. And in my case, I don't get a lot of sleep. So the sleep that I do get, I really do need. And when you disturb my sleep, you've disturbed my day. You've disturbed my productivity. So that's too high of a cost. So she was, really good on all other metrics, and, very attractive young lady. I mean, anybody be pleased to smash her, but it's just like, we can't live like animals. Like, I will initiate intercourse. You will receive intercourse. You dig? Anyway, Saints, has been a pleasure. And we did this exclusive for the members. You dig? Until next time. Oh, yeah. And by the way, shout out to Tico. I am going to address your situation. I'll probably do it in approximately 5 hours. So you guys might go to sleep, wake up. I don't know what time zone you folks are in, but in approximately 5 hours, I'll address it anonymously for their mini lessons. And I know you had some questions there as well. Gentlemen, let us end this with our tradition, the Creed of the Assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The Creed of the Assassin. I'm going to be who I truly am because I am remarkable. And I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time, peace to the saints.